Hello, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I am Joe Pearson, and I will be presenting the Lockwood 3 Apartments project. The applicant is requesting a special use permit, a density bonus permit, and a zone change to construct a new 5-story, 234-unit mixed income multifamily apartment building and associated utilities. The project requires approval of a special use permit to allow for the construction of multifamily housing within the existing BRP zone and the proposed affordable housing discretionary additive zone. Approval of a zone change to adopt the proposed affordable housing discretionary additive zone. The project also includes a request for a ministerial approval of a density bonus permit to allow for a 50% density bonus to increase the maximum number of units from 156 to 234 units, and to waive, reduce, or modify 10 development standards generally related to open space, balcony size and number, bedroom locations, setbacks, parking lot design, unit location, and for state mandated parking reductions. The project site is currently a vacant 5.17 acre property located at 2151 Lockwood Street and surrounded by a variety of uses, including the CarMax dealership, the 101 freeway, the Lockwood Senior Apartments projects, which are just to the south of this site and are currently under construction, as well as the Palms development to the east. The project site is designated Business Research Park and is located within the Business Research Park Zone District. The site is generally surrounded by similarly zoned properties. However, just to the south, the property is zoned BRP AHD, which is the zone that the applicant is currently requesting as part of their zone change. On August 1st, 2024, the Planning Commission held a public hearing to consider the applications shown and to allow for the construction of a 234-unit apartment complex. The Commission's actions on the final ISMND and zone change were recommendations to the City Council. Therefore, those permits are required to come before the City Council pursuant to Oxnard City Code. And pursuant to Oxnard City Code, the action of the Planning Commission on the SUP was to be final unless an appeal application to the City Council was filed within 18 days after the date of the decision. At the public hearing, the Commission heard public testimony, deliberated, and voted 4-0 with 3 commissioners absent to adopt the resolutions put forward by staff, recommending City Council adopt the final ISMND, recommending City Council approve the zone change, and approving the requested SUP and density bonus. On August 15th, the appellant, who goes by Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility, or SAFER, represented by Lozo Jury LLP, filed a timely appeal application with the city, and as a result of the appeal of the SUP, the entire project is before the City Council for consideration and may be considered de novo. As shown on the site plan, the building is centrally located on the property with parking and open space areas surrounding the building. The ground floor, as shown, consists of a podium level parking garage. The upper floors generally consist of residential units, as well as some additional open space amenities for the residents. The approval of this project has been determined to be consistent with the property's existing and proposed land use designations. The project's consistency review with general plan policies is further detailed in the staff report. The proposed project has been determined to be consistent with the general plan and the property's land use designation, subject to approval of the requested zone change and density bonus. The policies shown here highlight some of the key policies that the project fulfills through the provision of additional housing and mitigation of impacts through the preparation of the ISMND. As previously mentioned, the property is currently zoned Business Research Park, which is intended to provide areas for a limited group of professional, administrative, research, and limited manufacturing uses, along with limited commercial activities intended to support such uses. In order for the proposed residential development, the applicant is requesting a zone change to allow for the property to be granted the Affordable Housing Discretionary Additive Zone designation. This additive zone would keep the underlying zone in place. However, the additive zone would allow for the development of residential uses up to 30 units per acre. The Affordable Housing Additive Zone provided opportunities for affordable housing residential developments to help reach the city's regional housing needs allocation, or RHNA. The designation was specifically created as part of the adoption of the city's 2021 to 2029 housing element to help the city achieve compliance with the most recent RHNA allocation. To date, the city is in full compliance with respect to the city's housing element and RHNA. Therefore, the rezone of this property is not necessary to meet the city's housing element or RHNA goals. In consideration of the zone change request, the city should consider the larger context of the zone change and trade-offs associated with it, such as compatibility with surrounding land use and fiscal impacts. While the underlying BRP zone will remain unchanged, the approval of the project and/or zone change would result in the development of housing on the property. There are two approved residential projects directly adjacent, as previously mentioned, and therefore compatibility is generally not seen as a major concern. Development of the subject property would potentially preclude the development of the primary uses intended for the BRP zone, which typically provides space for tax-generating businesses and higher wage job opportunities. However, while it would preclude the development of BRP uses, the project would provide for additional workforce housing, which would serve many of the existing businesses by providing for an expanded employee base. Therefore, staff sees this as a beneficial project as it helps to support and grow our existing businesses within the community. Subject to approval of the zone change, the project would be developed under the Business Research Park Affordable Housing Discretionary Zoning District. Development tables were provided in the staff report showing and comparing applicable development standards for this project. The project is designed to be consistent with the development standards, except as otherwise noted, due to the density bonus modifications. which are further noted on the next page. In addition to the 50% density bonus, the applicant is eligible for up to 3 concessions, in addition to waivers and a reduction of parking requirements pursuant to state law. As shown in this table and further detailed in the staff report, the project is requesting 3 concessions to allow for changes to the requirement to line the parking garage with usable space, a reduction of interior yard space, and a reduction in the size of the patios and decks. The project also includes 3 waivers to allow for an increase in building height, a reduction of front yard setbacks, and a reduction of parking area landscape planters. Lastly, the project is using the state density bonus parking reduction to reduce the required parking to 300 spaces and allow for tandem spaces. However, the project is currently providing 351 spaces in excess of the requirement. Pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, the City of Oxnard, as the lead agency, prepared an initial study / mitigated negative declaration in accordance with the requirements of CEQA. The ISMND identified and discussed potential impacts, mitigation measures, monitoring requirements, and residual impacts for identified subject areas. The ISMND was available for public review from March 18, 2024 to April 17, 2024. The city received 5 comment letters on the ISMND from agencies, organizations, and interested parties. The written comments and responses to each of those comments received during the public review period of the administrative draft of the ISMND are included in the final ISMND. The ISMND concludes that after implementation of the standard conditions and mitigation measures, all less than significant impacts associated with the proposed project would be reduced to less than significant levels. The ISMND includes a mitigation monitoring and reporting program that details the process to implement the required mitigation measures. Therefore, staff has determined there's no substantial evidence that the project will have a significant effect on the environment. As previously noted, an appeal was filed on the project, and the appellant appealed the decision of the Planning Commission based on 2 general grounds of appeal. The 2 grounds raised were that they believe that the city cannot proceed with the project as proposed because it fails to meet the city's required minimum affordability requirement, and 2, that they have submitted substantial evidence of a fair argument that the project may have potentially significant effects on the environment, and the MND prepared for the project does not adequately analyze or mitigate potentially significant impacts from the project. In support of these 2 general grounds of appeal, the appellant attached 2 prior comment letters dated April 12, 2024 and August 1st, 2024. The August 1st, 2024 letter raises many of the same issues raised in the April 12th, 2024 letter. So the following grounds of appeal and responses are based primarily on the August 1st, 2024 letter. Responses to the April 12th, 2024 letter are provided in the final ISMND, which are provided as an attachment to the staff report. The appellant's specific issues raised in their letter are as follows. Ground 1 was the project fails to satisfy the minimum affordable housing requirements under the city's affordable housing additive zone. Staff disagrees with ground of appeal 1. The appellant is incorrectly interpreting the Oxnard City Code. The language in the code which references all units is in reference to the units allowed under the affordable housing discretionary additive zone. The additive zone in this case, allows for the development of housing up to a maximum density of 30 units per acre, which will allow for a total of 156 units on this property. As a result, under the AHD additive zone, 20% of the units, which rounds up to 32 units total, must be restricted as affordable. Density bonus units are considered separately from that calculation under the AHD additive zone. This is not only consistent with the current interpretation of the inclusionary housing ordinance and density bonus sections of the Oxnard City Code, it is also consistent with prior city approvals of other development projects within the affordable housing discretionary and affordable housing permitted additive zones. Therefore, the project is in compliance with the affordability requirements of the AHD additive zone. Ground of appeal number 2 is the ISM&D fails to adequately describe the project's environmental setting. Staff again disagrees with ground of appeal number 2, as the project's environmental setting was appropriately established pursuant to CEQA. As it relates to biological resources, which is the focus of this ground of appeal, the setting was established via a review of resource inventory databases and various publications, as well as a site survey by the city's CEQA consultant biologists. This analysis appropriately established the environmental setting at the time the environmental analysis commenced in accordance with CEQA. Again, this topic and the additional items raised are further discussed in the responses to comments provided in the final ISM&D. Ground of appeal number 3 is there's substantial evidence of a fair argument that the project may have significant biological resource impacts. Again, staff disagrees with ground of appeal 3 as the final ISM&D adequately analyzes all potential biological resource impacts pursuant to CEQA and determined that all impacts were less than significant with mitigation incorporated. As it relates to biological resources, again, which is the focus of the grounds of appeal, the city conducted a review of resource inventory databases and various publications, as well as conducted a site survey performed by the consultant biologist. And these topics discussed in the ground of appeal are addressed in the final ISM&D in the response to comments provided as an attachment to the staff report. Ground of appeal number 4 is there's substantial evidence of a fair argument that the project may have potentially significant air quality impacts. And staff disagrees with ground of appeal 5 as the final ISM&D adequately analyzes all potential air quality impacts pursuant to CEQA and determined that all impacts were less than significant. As it relates to air quality and health risk assessment was prepared for this project, and the results of those assessments determined that there was no significant impact in these areas. Again, the topics discussed in this ground of appeal are addressed in the final ISM&D in the response to comments provided as an attachment to the staff report. Ground of appeal number 5 is there's substantial evidence of a fair argument that the project may have significant health risks from indoor air quality emissions. As with the prior ground of appeal, staff disagrees with ground of appeal number 5 as the final ISM&D adequately analyzes all potential air quality impacts pursuant to CEQA and determined that they were less than significant. As it relates to air quality, the air quality report and health risk assessment analyzed indoor air quality and determined that the impacts were less than significant. And again, these topics were further discussed in the response to comments provided in the final ISM&D. Ground of appeal number 6 is that the installation of filters to reduce significant impacts to a level below significance constitutes a mitigation measure. Use of this mitigation measure must be reflected in the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. Staff disagrees with ground of appeal number 6 as the final ISM&D, again, adequately analyzed all potential air quality impacts pursuant to CEQA and determined that the impacts were less than significant. As it relates to the need for air filters, this is already required for this project pursuant to the Oxnard City Code. This requirement has been incorporated into the project, and the requirement is included in the project conditions of approval. Therefore, the air filters are part of the project and not required as a separate mitigation measure, as the impact would be less than significant with the project as designed. And again, these topics were further discussed in the grounds of appeal or in the response to comments, which are provided in the final ISM&D. Ground of appeal number 7 is there's substantial evidence of a fair argument that the project may have significant noise impacts that were inadequately addressed. Again, staff disagrees with ground of appeal number 7 as the final ISM&D adequately analyzes all potential noise impacts pursuant to CEQA and determined that all impacts were less than significant. As it relates to noise and vibration, which is the focus of this ground of appeal, a noise study was prepared for this project. Many of the issues raised in the August 1st letter continue to make the same arguments raised and responded to during the public review period. The appellant generally asserts that the city used improper thresholds in its analysis. However, staff continues to assert that the thresholds used were appropriate, as the Cal Lutheran University would not be considered a traditional office space. Given the variety of uses present in the building, it is appropriately categorized as a workshop along with the rest of the Palm Center, as they would not be as sensitive to vibration as stated in the ISM&D, and therefore would not fall under the office threshold. Again, these topics raised in the grounds of appeal were addressed in the final ISM&D in the response to comments provided as an attachment to the staff report. In regards to the appeal, the appellant generally is requesting that the Planning Commission's decision to grant the SUP be overturned and an EIR be prepared for the project based on several grounds. However, based on staff's analysis and staff's responses, which collectively demonstrate that the appeal lacks merit and the commission determination on August 1st should remain unchanged. Thus, staff recommends that the City Council find there's no merit to the appellant's grounds of appeal and that the appeal should not overturn the decision of the commission to approve the SUP and density bonus. Furthermore, the report, attachments, and specific findings outlined in the City Council resolutions provide substantial evidence in the record for City Council to approve the project. Therefore, staff recommends the City Council adopt a resolution adopting the final ISM&D and introduce an ordinance approving planning and zoning permit 22-570-01, subject to certain findings and conditions, and adopt a resolution denying the appeal and upholding Planning Commission decision to grant planning zoning permit 22-500-04 and planning zoning permit 22-535-03, subject to certain findings and conditions.